Welcome everyone to another episode of the Ol'Timers comic book show. Joining me this time around, as always, are my old-timing partners in crime. We have the Professor and, of course, the 13th Crusader. There we go. Gentlemen.
Johnny, how are you?
Buenos días.
Buenos días, señor. ¿Cómo está?
Muy bien.
Muy bien. ¿Et tú? Oh, muy bien also. Thanks for asking. Yeah. First off, before we get into the show, a quick apology. I've been on holiday. That's not the apology. I'm not sorry for that because it was great. And we had planned for an episode to drop whilst I was away. We'd done a double recording so that you'd have that episode. Somewhere along the lines, we had a crisis of multiple episodes kick off, and we lost the episode. So for everyone who was mad that you missed out the second part of the Earth 2 conversation, I am genuinely very, very sorry. It was a great conversation. Power Girl won, just so you know.
It's definitely it was an Undercover Capes crisis.
Yeah, so apologies for anyone who was expecting to see the second part of that. Multiverse episodes. Apologies. All right. As mentioned, I've been away. I have been a stranger in a strange land. I have been an Englishman, not in New York, but in Mexico. So this came up with the idea of stranger in a strange land is our topic for today. And I have to be honest, when I thought about it, and then I came up with a couple of ideas. After that, I was stuck. I was like, where are we going with this? Because you've talked about, but I think it was yourself, who talked about Secret Wars 2 at some point.
Yeah.
And I've kind of kiboshed that. Yeah, and I thought, well, there's a great example. There's a stranger in a strange land, right?
Yep. Yeah. There were a few of them I thought about, and actually, when we get to talking about my pick, there was actually a concurrent storyline for a major character in Marvel that was a stranger in a strange land story as well. So there were two major storylines going on at the same time.
Excellent. So, who says that good old editorial back then still used the same idea in multiple books?
It was frighteningly similar. So I'll mention it when we get going.
All right. Okay then. So let's get us started. The first book that we are going with the Professor's book first, and it is this classic corker.
I wouldn't know if I'd call it a corker.
No, I don't think I'm going to call it a corker either. This is The Thing, number 11. This is from 1984. Go collect, have this on range. From grade 6 up to 9.6, between $17 and $21.
Really?
Yeah, no.
That is weird.
On eBay, I can buy this and issue 10 for £2.99.
Well, there we go.
I will not be.
You can't go collect if the prices are that high for something like this.
Well, I tell you what, man. I don't know what's going on with Go Collect. There's a whack price on one of the books that I'll talk about in a minute or later on in the show. But I'm not spending $3 on this. All right. So it's written by John Byrne, who I feel probably called this one in, to be honest. Art by Ron Wilson and Joe Sinnott. Letters Rick Parker and colors by George Budansky. And that's how I'm saying it anyway.
George Russos.
Yeah. Was it? Did I get the wrong person?
Yeah.
Oh, George Russos. I apologize. All right. Bud, this is yours. Take it away.
Yeah. So we talked about Stranger in a Strange Land, and you'd brought up Beyonder and Secret Wars 2, and I was like, well, we did get a Stranger in a Strange Land story out of Secret Wars, but it really wasn't who you were thinking. It was The Thing. Because at the end of Secret Wars, The Thing decided to stay on Warworld, and the only reason he decided to stay was because he could change back into Ben Grimm. So he didn't want to go home. And so he decided to stick around, and we got a nice year-long storyline here in his own book where he becomes Rocky Grimm Space Ranger, which is the most 70s type science fiction title I've ever heard, which I thought was pretty cool. The series, not that much. I mean, this is this book had some nice visuals from Ron Wilson, who did the art throughout. And the cool thing about these stranger in a strange land type theme stories is the landscapes that the artists can just kind of draw whatever comes to their mind, which I thought was really cool. And so the reason I did pick this one was because this was very early in my comic collecting life. And this was really my first real exposure to the Thing. I had read some Fantastic Four. The Thing at the time was, would you call him probably the third most popular Marvel character behind Spider-Man and the Hulk?
Really? Back in '84.
Back in '84, he had his own Saturday morning cartoon. If you recall.
Well, we never got that over here, so.
He had a cartoon that he was on with the Flintstones and the Shmoo. Do you remember that?
I remember Shmoo.
It's terrible, but I mean, he had his own cartoon, and of course he had a medallion that changed him into a teenage boy. But it was kind of not really the Thing, but it was the Thing. But this is my primary exposure. So when I see him. And here he is, and he has the ability to turn from the Thing to Ben Grimm. And at that point in time, I didn't know that was a thing. Get pun intended. That he couldn't switch back. So
you didn't think he could get his rocks off.
All right.
Solid joke there, Machine.
That was very, very good. Yes. So. Yeah, I mean, it's a very science fiction-y type, fantasy type stuff with the dragon / bug creatures and the little aliens. And this one, actually, this shot right here, this panel, made me think of the other character that had a stranger in a strange land storyline going on for exactly the same amount of time the Thing did. Can you guys remember what character it is?
84. Let's think.
Doctor Strange.
12 issues, did you say?
About 12 or 14. Nope, it was not Doctor Strange.
Was it Nova?
Oh, the Hulk.
It was the Hulk. There was the Incredible Hulk. Had the Crossroads story that ran from issue 301 to 314, where Doctor Strange banished the Hulk from Earth, and the Hulk spent the next year wandering through the crossroads and going to different worlds in every issue.
So let me just ask you a quick question then, because you brought up the Hulk and Stranger in Strange Land type theory. Sure. Is this because everyone loved the Immortal Hulk, the more recent book, right?
Yes.
Does that borrow heavily then from the Crossroads type of stuff, or albeit with a horror twist?
Not really. The Crossroads story in Hulk was largely forgettable because it was the reason that the Hulk got exiled was because the Banner side of him had died, right? So the Hulk was just a savage beast and had no mind really, and throughout that storyline, it was just a bunch. It was really kind of it was a tough read. Bill Mantlo wrote it, but tough to get through. I just kind of wanted him back on Earth where he could go up against heroes, villains, or whatever. But when he was going up against these fantasy type characters, it was not great. Kind of like the Thing, not great. He does spend the next 12 issues here just kind of wandering from landscape to landscape. It looks different in every issue. Even within this issue, you see it goes from like trees to windy horror type landscape to the cityscape in just one issue. And here they do have the MacGuffin. Johnny loves his MacGuffins with the he has the little machine button that he can press anytime he wants to go home. He just has to press the button, and of course, by page 5, that's been stolen from him. And now he's got to chase the alien on the bug bird to where he can get his thing back. And you see here, like towards the end of this issue, he actually changes into the Thing without thinking of it, and he doesn't even realize he's changed into the Thing by the end. So that's kind of the theme that runs through this whole story, is that he doesn't want to change into the Thing because he has the ability to just be Ben Grimm in this issue. But of course, in every issue, there's some reason where he has to turn to the Thing, and then eventually his psyche kind of splits, and the Ben Grimm side of him becomes its own character and becomes villainous by the end of this. And the Thing ends up having to kill the Ben Grimm side of him, which is how he ends up coming home. Kind of a cheesy kind of ending to the story. And that's when Ben comes back to Earth, he's mad at Reed because the reason he stayed there was he killed Ben Grimm. You know, and you know, it's a tough read. John Byrne is only on this first issue, and then Mike Carlin comes on in the second issue. And I think this is Mike Carlin's very first regular book that he's writing. He is a much better editor than he is a writer. So, you know, going forward, it's not terrible, not great. I've read a lot worse Stranger in a Strange Land stories. But I don't know. I'm curious as to what you guys think of it, because I know this was kind of off the beaten path for this.
No, I think it's a good call, definitely. Yeah. I think my comments. I mean, 13th. Do you want to weigh in on this before I get to say my bits?
Sure. Yeah,
comfortably.
Yes, this book definitely fits the bill with the theme that we're going with today. No pun intended. The Thing. However, you know, the Thing was one of the first characters that really Marvel put out there, right? The first family of Marvel.
Yep.
So he's had a very long history with Marvel. He's been all over the place, not just in the Fantastic Four, but remember, he was prominent in the Marvel 2-in-1 books, where he practically teamed up with everyone. So it's no surprise the Thing, you know, gets a lot of the spotlight. So to say that his popularity is there is definitely true, for better or for worse. In this book, I feel that John Byrne, some of the narration is very well written. However, it's almost overkill.
Yeah.
And the script, I think he does a good job of changing from narration to the script to make it sound like Ben Grimm. He's definitely got it down. Ron Wilson's art here with Joe Sinnott finishing, the legendary Joe Sinnott. I think the art was strong with the Ben Grimm persona. It really did have that feel of the old Ben Grimm that you would see in the pages of the Fantastic Four. So for the mid 80s, that was good to see, because for years and years, most readers at that point never really saw what the Thing really looked like. Now you get to see him here. So him on Battle World and staying there because he can change back to human, which is something he always desired, is kind of ironic, because the sacrifice for him is that his family is gone, the Fantastic Four, and everyone else that he knows. So he's really here by himself, just hanging out, and whatever happens, happens. So as much as I commented on on Ron Wilson and Joe Sinnott, I think the color in this book suffers because the background. I know it's Battle World is supposed to be kind of a mix up of worlds and things like that. I think the color background kind of distracts from the artwork. As I was reading this, I'm like, I couldn't help but the background is red, the background is yellow, the background is blue. There's panels later on when the Thing is trying to get on board that pterodactyl thing, and the background changes from white to blue.
I mean, look at that page is a prime example. You've got an orange background at the top, a white background in your second panel, and then we're back to orange when
correct. So I get the premise of Battle World, right? It's supposed to be at any given moment anything can happen. It's supposed to be you take a step and things change. I get that feeling, but it's kind of distracting for the reader using the bright colors like the ones that they used here. So those are pretty much my thoughts on this book. I used to own this run. I sold it probably like 3-4 years ago. It just never really sat well with me, unfortunately. And the sad thing about that was that, like, at this point in time with Marvel, they had a lot of stuff going on. Like Secret Wars was a big,
Yeah.
big event. Yeah,
Yep.
and that really had an impact that crossed over and through all of the Marvel titles at one point or another, or
Yeah.
definitely left ramifications for other characters that they didn't get to. But to see the thing like this, it's how do you feel for him? Are you happy because he can change back to human, or to go back home, he has to sacrifice that once again? So it kind of takes away from what the thing is really all about. You know, the thing actually, I think his sadness and depression really leads him to really motivate him to be the way he is and so aggressive in battle. And I think in this, you see the change.
Mm-hmm.
And even subconsciously, when he gets a little bit upset, kind of like the Hulk, he changes back without even knowing it.
Mm.
So whether he likes it or not, he really is the thing he has become. And that's probably for the best. So it just takes readers for this journey and this run, this whole time, to kind of really give out a long explanation and figure it out.
Mm.
So those are my thoughts on that book.
Okay, cool. What do I like about this book? Where was it? I did see something that I liked. There you go. Love
try
that
too hard.
mustache. Yeah, love that mustache. That is just bang on. That is what you call.
That is a classic bartender, alien bartender mustache.
Yeah,
That
that's
almost
it.
looks like the old Don Eckersley mustache.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, Dennis
Right.
Yeah.
Dennis Eckersley.
I right. I'm trying to be positive. All right.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So, this is the first time I've read this series, or this an issue from this series. One of the things that, Professor, you always kind of bring up when we talk about some older DC books is how staid they look, how they look,
Of its
they don't look,
time.
yeah, of its time. It looks older than it actually is.
Yes.
All right. This is exactly how I feel about this book, because you've got so many Jack Kirby influences in this for 1984. It makes me, when I started reading this, I was like, is it a shoe this is from the 80s? Because it reads like a 70s thing.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's the art, if it's the over exaggeration of the dialogue that 13 mentioned. For me, I kind of think to myself, I love all the thought balloons that he has going on. But then for some of them, he's by himself. So who's he talking to? Who's he talking to? What's why? Who's he talking to? He's talking to no one. It's crazy. Crazy.
This almost felt like a Silver Surfer book. You know, he's just lying in self-thought the entire time.
Yep.
The
You're right.
MacGuffin. Oh man. There's a British TV show called Blake Seven, and it came out in the late 70s, written by Terry Nation, the creator of the Daleks, and they had a fancy ship and they could beam down and teleport down places. But to teleport, you had to have a bracelet on, right? And you put the bracelet on and beam down. Put the bracelets back on, press the button, call back, and you get beamed up. Every episode, no matter which planet they beam down onto, someone would lose a bracelet. And that's what this story was. I was like, what? I do think John Byrne phoned this one in. When you think of John Byrne, you think of all the great stuff he's done. And you think back at the time, all the arguments he used to have with Chris Claremont about how X-Men should be scripted and stuff like that. Well, I tell you what, if this is the stuff you put now, John Byrne, is your stuff, no wonder Chris Claremont was happy to hold on to the X-Men by himself.
Well, so the first 10 issues of the thing were him on Earth with his, his relationship with Alicia and all that stuff. It was a little bit, I thought it was a little bit slow, even though John Byrne did the first couple of issues and then Ron Wilson took over. But if you remember back in 84, so this issue came out the same month Secret Wars #2 came out, right? Because in the first month, everybody got taken off to Secret Wars, to Battle World, and then issue 1 came out. But then by issue 2, when everybody's reading Secret Wars, no one knows what has happened in Secret Wars. All these issues come back, and they're all back. and this is where all the changes came. Whereas Black Costume Spider-Man, things on Battle World, She-Hulk's in the Fantastic Four, and all that stuff that has been changing that got everybody so excited for Marvel. Like, what's going on? All these changes, and now I have to read Secret Wars because I need to know what happened, and I need to know, what's going on. So this was actually kind of an exciting new direction, and everybody wanted to read this book because this is the battle world where the Secret Wars happened, and in my opinion, because that's how I felt as a 14-year-old kid.
Okay.
So, but this was an exciting book for me. It doesn't hold up over time, but hey, it's exciting.
On that note, I agree. It does not hold up after time, which is a shame. Because I like Ben Grimm. I think Ben Grimm is probably the heart and soul of the Marvel universe, and I think
you're right.
I think he needs a little bit more respect. I mean, he's getting it now, I suppose. He's had a mini series. He's big player in the Fantastic Four again. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Before we jump onto our second book, it's time for a break. One of our adverts. Should we do no prize? We'll do no prize because I'm nice. It's a no prize podcast. Here we go. No, we're not. I know. Here we go again. Gremlins from the Crisis must still be kicking around. All right. Second book up is it's a strange book from a strange land with a stranger in it. What more can you want? Fits the remit perfectly. It is, of course, the 13th Crusaders choice. So it is first issue special number 8, which seems like a conundrum of titles to start with. Enter the World of the Warlord. Written and drawn by Mike Grell. Only credits in the book. If you look on Go Collect, Neil Adams also gets a credit somewhere. I'm not sure where that was in this. This is from October 1975. At a grade 6, you can get it for $28. Guess how much at 9.6?
100.
350. eBay for very fine, you can buy it for £40.
Good thing I didn't buy it for any of those amounts.
Yeah, maybe not. So 13th, why this book?
Well, honestly, when you came up with this theme, I thought a lot about who should I pick, and the first thing that comes to mind is a Silver Surfer, right? Because he was also a stranger in a strange land with coming to Earth from Zen Law. So, but then I'm like, nah. I think somebody that doesn't really get a mention all that often in DC in general is the Warlord, by Mike Grell. So the credits with Neil Adams, I believe Mike Grell wanted to be a cartoonist and whatnot, and got back into comics. And the comics that he got back into were the Green Lantern, Green Arrow books with Neil Adams, of course.
Okay.
So you know the kind of art style that Neil Adams brought in. So Mike Grell, with his work, I mean, it's phenomenal artwork. And quite honestly, like with a character like the Warlord and even Green Arrow, which he took on later on, I felt like those were kind of, sometimes I felt like they were underrated. You know what I mean? Like, nobody really talks about the Warlord. You don't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to read a Warlord comic. But back in the 70s, there was a lot of sword and sorcery and fantasy going on. And for this kind of book to be thrown out there in a comic, and the kind of work he put into it, reading this book again for the first time in many, many years, I'm like, this book is just one of those things that's not really spoken a lot about. I think it has a lot of great things that make comic books great. For instance, not just the art, which I always say, like, this thing has to be good enough for you to pick it up off the newsstands back then. So the cover in itself, unfortunately, like the old school titles would take half the art, but it kind of gives you that sense right away that this is going to be kind of something medieval or barbaric.
Mm-hmm.
So, but once you get past that and you start opening the book, just I would have loved to see the layouts in black and white for this,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of detail that he puts in here. But the story is very simple. This follows the exploits of Travis Morgan, a United States Air Force pilot, and he was on a mission for the U.S. in Russia. Right away, that made me
Dun
think of
dun
current
dun.
events. But back then, they didn't have drones, so he was the drone, and he gets caught and he has to flee. And in his haste to try to get back to U.S. soil in Alaska, he has to cut through the North Pole, and then that's where the adventure begins. I think the idea in itself is very unique because you never really think about, okay, if I travel from Russia to the
Yeah.
U.S. and by cutting through the North Pole, I end up in some weird land. Um, that's exactly what happens in this book, and the world that he or the land that he ends up in is called Scataris, I think it's called.
Yep.
So it's hinted that this is like the center of the Earth or the Earth's core,
Mm-hmm.
where the world in itself, if you look all the way around, the land is kind of circular, if you will, and the
Mm-hmm.
landscape changes, and in there lives um, old dinosaurs and you know kingdoms of people. So there is sword and sorcery in this book, and you get to see that once Travis Morgan meets a lady named Tara, who will eventually he'll learn her name. They all speak different languages and whatnot, but eventually they're led to a kingdom, and there he meets Deimos, who is a pretty evil high priest.
Because
And
nobody's a good guy with a name like Demos.
no, not at all. You can definitely tell where this is going. But what makes Travis Morgan special in this world is, he has a weapon with him in the form of a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, it's like they've never seen anything like that. So they think he's a god,
Mm-hmm.
the way he's using that thing. Um, it's a very different take if you want to call it a superhero book. I don't know if I want to call it a superhero book, but
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's more of definitely in the adventure category with
Mm-hmm.
fantasy. And you kind of get that sense with Travis Morgan. He's just a normal guy, and you can easily kind of relate with him if you were in his shoes and you ended up in a place like this. Time passes differently. Um, and as you can see, he learns their language and things like that later on throughout the book, and he figures out what happens. But how would he ever get out? Who knows? So one of the things with this issue is kind of like Marvel's Spotlight was doing back in the day with trying to trot out new stories and characters to try out for people, and if it did well enough, we'll give it its own run. They didn't waste any time with Warlord. He eventually got his own title, so this was strong enough for DC to take the gamble and give uh, Warlord a chance. And I thought that after reading this story, I definitely would have been sold on it to at least try Warlord out for a few issues. Despite me not liking the outfit that Travis Morgan slipped into later on, I did not like it. I thought it was pretty corny, but all the other things that happened to him, hey, you come in from the outside world, they think you're a god, and they treat you like one. That was the best part. Um, and then he meets a warrior lady in Tara, and they piss off that kingdom eventually, and then they had to flee, and that's where they kind of leave the story. And I'm like, you're left with what happens next. That's the
Mm-hmm.
cliffhanger. They escape that kingdom, and the only way you're gonna find out is if you start picking up the warlord issues. So, um, warlord's a run that lasted quite a while. It's seen different volumes and things like that. So it's one of those things that's not really talked about in the world of DC, but it's always been there.
Okay, cool. So let me ask you a question. How did you get the language down?
How did he get the language down?
Yeah, because it's like this
Uh, uh,
confused me. Because he's like,
according to the book, he knew Russian, and I guess he figured that if he could learn that language, he could learn anything.
I don't know, but he's like, it's at this point. He then has a bath and he gets some dancing going on.
He
He then
goes to
falls.
sleep and he wakes up and can communicate. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what happened? What? Where? How?
Well, it is a comic book machine.
Fair enough. It is a comic book. You're right. I take these things far too seriously.
Yeah, and I mean, look who taught him, Tara. So it was kind of fate that he gets into this place and he meets her, and we all know how this goes down eventually. Um, one other thing, there was a very neat episode. I think it was Journey to the Center of the Earth or something like that in the Justice League animated, where they actually threw in a little Warlord story with the Justice League going to the Earth's core, where they meet Warlord, and that
Oh,
was an
good. Yeah.
episode
Yeah,
where Stargirl was very jealous of Supergirl.
that's right.
Supergirl could do anything, but when
Because
she's
it's a
in
red
that
sun.
world, it's a red sun. And
Mm,
but that showed a lot of Warlord and Deimos.
mm.
And I thought it was awesome that they kind of give that little tribute to Warlord.
Good. Excellent. All right, Professor. Where do you think? Where do you sit on this one?
I agree with 13 about that corny outfit. I liked his armor later on
Hmm.
much better. I had some questions about the so if you go to the cover, Johnny, the
Yep.
cover. So it says this is the title of this book is First Issue Special. Is that correct?
Yep.
And then so what was this like a kind of like a rotating topic of a book?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
if you like the book, you could write in and say, "I like the Warlord. Please give him his own book," and then they spin him off.
exactly. I
So
mean,
this might have been the only appearance of Warlord if no one wrote in, right?
exactly. But 13 threw it in. God damn.
So the other question here is if you see that on that circular first DC issue, was the Warlord ever published anywhere other than DC?
I do not know. That is a really good question.
This was his first appearance.
There you go.
Okay, so then what's the first DC issue about? That's really kind of what threw me off. I was like, what? Well, where else did the Warlord appear, if not for DC? Did Mike Grell self-publish back in 1975?
No, I'm
This is
not
one of
sure where
those.
you're going with
This is
this.
one of those Google questions that I.
Yeah,
Oh,
as
wait.
far as I know, this was his first appearance, and then afterwards he got his own run.
Other than that, so like I've always been a big fan of Mike Grell's artwork. So I thought this was great. If I was a kid in 1975 and I saw this guy on the cover with a dinosaur fighting a dinosaur, and then if I turned to page 1 and saw him flying a fighter jet, I would probably be like, "What the heck? I'm getting this book." So
Right. There is another Warlord.
oh wow.
Right. Here we go. Under DC Thompson, there is the Warlord was a comics anthology published weekly in the United Kingdom between 20th September 1974 and 27th of September 1986. So the sticker could have been, or the print on the front there is probably to differentiate the two.
So like
Potentially.
DC's Warlord.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah, that's all I got. I'm a big fan of Mike Grell. So, for what I would say is this is probably a great departure from all the superhero stuff that DC was putting out in 1975.
I think I like Mike Grell as well, predominantly for his Green Arrow stuff. Looking at early stuff like this is always fun because you get to see the bones of what builds on from that point onwards. You know,
Yeah.
the fact when he shaves his whiskers, he gives himself a Oliver Queen goatee, for example. You know, it's just kind
I'm
of.
glad you said that. Did you guys notice something with the art? So if you look at the cover and then you go to the very opening page,
Hang on.
right? You see the
Yep.
cover and then you look at the opening page. So the difference is that on the cover he has a long hair and a beard, and in the opening page he doesn't.
Yeah.
And if you go several
Ooh.
pages down, when he encounters the dinosaur again, he looks even younger.
Time works weird in this place, definitely.
Right there, top right.
Oh yeah. A bit of Carmen Infantino in there as well, I think, in that pose.
Hmm.
So this book reads like Flash Gordon meets John Carter with Tarzan thrown in for some good measure.
There you go.
And if you like any of those things, then probably you're going to love this book. The Flash Gordon elements, Deimos could be Ming, John Carter, although
Right.
this time around Travis doesn't have any special powers brought on by the sun like John Carter has on Basum or Mars, depending how you want to look at it. Tarzan, because it's a jungle thing. I never even thought about this, but you've also got a little bit of Logan's Run in there if they're going from civilization to civilization across the realm, very much as trying to find their own sanctuary, I guess. So lots of different influences on show, depending on how you look at it. You'll either love this because of the influences, or you'll hate it because of the influences. I think, because some people think, oh well, they just stole the idea from Journey to the Center of the Earth or The Land That Time Forgot, or whichever version of monster movie that came out around that time. Just for the record, I hope Joe Namath does wear pantyhose. Being a Dolphins fan, I'm all right with that. Go Joe.
You guys ever read that What If book? What if Conan went to Manhattan, right? Where you take a savage barbarian and put him in the modern age. Well, the warlord is really the opposite, where you take a man from the modern times and throw him back into a lost civilization.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they did that in Marvel did its own Call the Conqueror, which was only lasted like 8 issues, but this is very reminiscent of that too.
It's strange how even in comic books, even back then, you've got to think this would be classed as a niche book, because everyone's buying superheroes stuff like Batman, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Avengers, Superman, all that sort of stuff. This would be a niche. You'd have to really like your dinosaurs or your influences I mentioned earlier to get into this. But I liked it. I thought it was good fun. Cheese on toast in places. That's fine. Some of the art, I mean, the girl has an appearance of a John Buscema born. So again, there's artistic influences in there. I mentioned Carmen Infantino earlier as well. I think it works for what it sets out to do, which is introduce a character, set up the premise of the book, and if you're interested, you'll go out and buy the book on a regular basis. So, 13th, did you buy the book? Did you get Warlord?
I do own this first book. I don't have anything of the run that came thereafter. Maybe I had it a few years ago, maybe here and there, but I do have visions of trying to scoop up that first run. It's really like, so with Warlord, from those that also are cost conscious, I guess the investment is heavier on the front end than it is later on in the run. So meaning this book is pretty much where you're going to spend more of your money, but getting the rest of the run shouldn't be too bad.
I mean, $28 for a grade 6 doesn't sound so bad, actually.
Not at all. Not at all. Especially for a reader copy.
Yeah, the £40 one over here is for a very fine. So, I think the scarcity of the book is probably the thing that's going to make it, rather than the creators or the character itself.
Yeah. I don't see this book too many on the stands at conventions, because, again, you could ask probably a lot of like the modern day collectors right now, like, hey, you ever heard of Warlord? Who?
Yeah.
So that's number one. It may not even sell, to be honest. It's got to be it's an acquired taste. It's something that you have to be specifically looking for.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Well, I could be a Mike Grell completest.
Correct.
Yeah.
This book is screaming for like an HBO Max adaptation.
Yeah, could do. Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't have any like powers when he got into the Strange Land. I thought that was. I don't know if that would have made it too obvious an influence, but hey, cool. No, good shout. I liked it. It was a slice of kitsch for sure, daft in places, but a good old school book. Definitely enjoyed this one. All right, okay. Last up is my choice. This is DC Comics Presents number 3. And I know we've done DC Comics Presents before when I talked about Superman, Batgirl, and everyone hated that book. Thanks, so this is
us.
Well, it's a great book. I love that book. So this is from November 1978. This is an odd one. On Go Collect, it is cheaper at the higher grade than it was at a lower grade. So they must have sold one or they must have recorded the sale of one at one time, and then another one's gone in after or whatever. But this ranges on Go Collect from $27 to $91. All right. And funny enough, you could get a higher grade at 48 than the 91. The 91 was for like an 8. Couldn't find it on eBay. Could not find it at all. So there you go.
That's strange.
Yeah. So this is a twofer on the theme, actually. Not only because it's got Superman and Adam Strange in it. It's written by David Michelinie. Did I say it right?
Close enough.
Oh, okay. Art by the fantastic Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Colors by Jerry Serpa. Letters by Ben Order. Now, I used to have this book in a Christmas annual. I think I've told you about these before. Annuals come out Christmas. The reprint books predominantly. I had this story in a reprint book, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite Superman stories because it is proper Superman. I'm talking, this is Superman who can push planets. Superman, yeah. None of this minor stuff he does now, but that's off. Dead simple. Superman's returning back to Earth. Gets there, finds out it's not Earth, it's Ran. Oh no, what's going on? Falls afoul of some stuff that you'd expect from an Adam Strange book. For me, this is all brand new the first time around. This is my first introduction to Adam Strange. So I was like, I have no idea what's going on. A little bit Flash Gordon with Dr. Zarkov, but it's not Zarkov, and of course Dale Arden, not Dale Arden. But still, she starts feeling faint. Superman does his bit, does all the super stuff that you expect from a 70s book, and then gets himself caught in a Red Sun trap. Just look at that. Look at that panel. That bottom panel is great. Love that panel. Then we snapshot over to what's going on with Adam Strange, who's now on Earth. Of course, he's not used to being on Earth. Comes across different things happening on Earth because Earth's in the wrong place. Does his best to save the whatnot and everything, and from there meets a very well drawn Lois Lane going on there. Love the details. Gets himself caught. You're in trouble. Oh no, who's going to save me? Superman. Of course it's Superman, right? And then Superman explains how he got out of the trap. More fantastic battles. And then they come up with this great idea of how to move the planets. Superman decides he's going to help him out, build the spaceship, as you do in the 70s. Superman can build anything. Throws it like a javelin. Class. Brilliant. How do you not like this? There he goes, pushing a planet through a wormhole to get everything back the way it is.
So we know how solid those planets are.
Yeah. And then, of course,
atmosphere or anything.
The idea, yeah, that's the thing that blew my little boy brain at the time. I was like, Mount Everest isn't out in space. How did that happen? Anyway, and of course, Adam Strange gets to make out with his girl back on Ran. Oh, that's nice. This book, to me, is kind of like the anti-Thing book. You know how I said that the Thing book looks older than it should be?
Yes.
Yeah. This looks way newer and just, this does not look like a 70s book. This could have been, it's just, the art in this book for me is just gorgeous.
Yeah, they play with the panel layouts and everything too. So
yeah, absolutely. This is an absolutely fantastic read. Is it chintzy? Of course it's chintzy. It's 70s Superman. He came up with new powers every left, right, and center. Mm-hmm. But pretty much the same character all the way through. Love the book, love the artwork. The story makes a modicum of sense, which is always good. What's not to like? What is not to like, really? Professor.
Who are you asking? Me?
Professor, yeah. I'll go Marvel first and then DC can back me up later. So, yeah.
It is kind of super campy Superman from the 70s. That's exactly how you put it. And that's what it is. So you have to kind of walk in here with your eyes wide open on this one. Do I don't really particularly like 70s Superman because it does, he can do anything. He's just like, I mean, the only way you can beat him is if you put him in a red sun trap or bust out the kryptonite. This issue was the red sun trap. So, to me, the villains, most of the villains in 70s DC, forgettable. This guy here on Adam Strange, does he ever appear again? Probably not. I don't know.
I don't know either,
The,
to be fair.
yeah, Adam Strange, it was a stranger to me, to be pretty specific. I've read Adam Strange before. I don't know if anybody can really write him very good because I've never really read an Adam Strange story that I thought was great. Um, and you're right with the Flash Gordon kickouts with the two sidekicks there. Um, you know, the best thing about this story is the artwork. I love the artwork on the book. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez he's great. So.
I mean, there's going to be somebody who says, "Oh yeah, but he just looks like Neil Adams." Does he look like Neil Adams, or is it like an extrapolation of Neil Adams? I don't know.
I don't think it looks like Neil Adams at all. I think he's got his own style.
Definitely agreed. I mean, there's a little bit of Kurt Swan there, that pose there.
Yeah, all that stuff with the big planet-sized balls and stuff, and being able to just position stuff and do whatever the heck Superman wants to do. Pushing the planet was kind of eye rolling, but
pushing the planet.
Yeah, but this came out with 1978, right? So this was around the same time that the Superman the movie came out, right? Yeah. So, and in that movie, he flew backwards around the Earth and made it go backwards in time. So
to save Lois, and thank goodness he did.
Yeah, yeah. And
I love how. Go on, Professor.
No. It looks. Just visually, it looks good. I bought into the story, even though the villain is the stupidest villain I've seen in a long time.
I love how he gets out the trap. I love the Kaiser's cape to stop, because the cape is obviously stops radiation as well as light.
Well, and also when we're doing the Stranger in a Strange Land themes, I think Superman kind of fits the bill for as well.
So, from the get-go. Yeah, it's a good shout. Good shout. 13. Save me.
Okay, there's a lot of subtle things in here that I also think are underrated. So the script itself, it's not easy to write a script like this with these two kind of characters. That's number one. Although you have, let's just put ourselves in David Michelinie, right? Is that how you say?
Yeah. Yep.
Let's put ourselves in his shoes. All right, guy, we're giving you Superman and Adam Strange. Go make a story. How would you do it? Where do you even start? So I give him a lot of credit for that, because Adam Strange is just also one of those unsung heroes that we don't really talk about often as well. He's been around forever, and like Superman, and they're both strangers in strange lands. So now you have them here together in this book. So I give him a lot of props for that. It's a 70s book. Expect a lot of dialogue. Expect a lot of lessons in DC physics. Right. So we all know in reality, you can't have matter coexisting in the same spot. You're going to get that. And then more than what you bargained for with Randian science, along with DC science. So if you're into that, you're going to get it in this book. The artwork by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Right. What I love about his art are the lines. It's straight to the point. There's nothing that's overdone. Sometimes you may get a little more detail with him on close-ups, but other than that, it gets the job done and nothing is lost. To Machine's point with Lois Lane, right? Beautiful, beautiful renditions of Lois Lane, where she's interviewing Adam Strange. I think in the following page on the bottom right-hand corner, if you go to the next page, Machine, I love that rendition of Lois Lane.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
So you see her with emotion on her face. It's clearly defined. There's no exaggeration. It's just she's a reporter. That is the classic, iconic Lois Lane, period. And that's what you're supposed to set out to do as an artist. You could say maybe for some of those people that say he borrowed from Kurt Swan, like you said earlier, Machine, and then or maybe even Neil Adams. This is a different era. Remember, you know, where they didn't have a house style like that in DC. Neil Adams brought something more realistic to DC and kind of started that revolution. But Superman historically has been drawn kind of the Kurt Swan way. So there, yeah, maybe there are hints of that, but at this point in time, you're saying he's supposed to. So no problem with that. That's fine. Um, you know, some of these things are greatly exaggerated, sure, but that's what comics are for, right? You certainly gonna get escapism with this book because to see Superman push a planet, we've made fun of this before many a times, Machine, in the past.
We have.
Yes, we have, with Superman being able to push planets and stuff, but these are things Superman can do at least in this era. So again, another shout out to Jose Luis Garcia Lopez with the panel with Superman actually sweating. At least gives you the sense that there is some sort of limit to Superman, or maybe there isn't, but it's not going to be that easy to save the Earth in this fashion. And then with his artwork at the end, with him kissing Alana, is classic. So this has a lot of good panels in here with the artwork. The script is okay. It's just, can you hang in there with the sciencey stuff for that long? DC physics, understand what is reality with science and things like that.
Of course you can.
Yeah, I had no problem with it, but you know, it is kind of a long read.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
It is 44 pages for 50 cents.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things in closing here, the thing, or that little saying that it's hard to write Superman stories because he is so powerful. If that's the case, then how did he survive being written all these years?
Yeah,
because pre-crisis Superman, you know, went on for what, a good solid 50 years. So my challenge is, when people say that to me in this era now, oh, we don't write Superman that way because he's too powerful, is really a load of crap. It's just as a really lack of imagination and how to use someone like Superman, and an iconic character like him. So here's a prime example of how Superman is showing you not even the upper limits of his strength, but you still have him throughout a story. Maybe you can, like the Machine said, you have a red sun trap here or kryptonite there. It wasn't just the trap itself. It was, how did he get out of it? How did he get into it? And what was happening in the book? And in this case, Superman on Ran, you don't see that too often.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts on that statement.
What annoys me the most is this book is so good, quality wise. The art, we all agree, the art is fantastic. Right? And then when we looked at the number 19, it was terrible. You know, my memory played tricks on me for that, because I loved 19 with the Batgirl. I love that. That's one of my favorite books when I was a kid. Looking back at it now, it pales in comparison to this, and I'm like, you know, if this choice doesn't make you want to go out and buy some Garcia Lopez comic books, then you I don't know what's wrong with you. Just get out there and buy some. Right?
This was a competition with Marvel Team Up, if you really think about it. Eventually, right? Marvel Team Up came down the road, but it was with Spider-Man all the time and some other group of characters 99% of the time. Same thing here.
Same with Brave and the Bold.
Same with Brave and the Bold.
It's a Batman book. Well, it wasn't originally, but it became a Batman book. Batman and another. You know? Yeah. So, and as I said before, because the comics over here at the time were quite sparse, I would probably buy DC Comics Presents or Brave and the Bold over anything, because you get two heroes for your money.
So, it's a great way to explore DC heroes that you may have never heard of. So in your case, Machine, you know, with Adam Strange, like my history with Adam Strange is not many times that I've really read him. I thought he was well done during the Infinite Crisis. I really got into Adam Strange then in the Rand Thanagar War. I really got to learn about him there. But seeing him in this time, I could understand how people wouldn't just run to the stands to get Adam Strange books. Yeah. Because that's exactly what it was. It lived up to the name. It was strange.
Yeah. So, no, good call. I really like this book, and I was really pleased that we managed to get it. And when we were talking about what books to choose, and I was like, I'm going to hold off picking mine, because I didn't know if 13th you were going to go with Adam Strange, like his first appearance or whatnot. I thought if you don't do Strange, I was doing this one. This was the book I wanted. I was like, come on. So I'm pleased I managed to get it out there. There you go. Right, guys, there you are. Another show done and done. 3 books up, 3 books down. Stranger in a Strange Land. More than one in some books. All right, excellent. Hope you enjoyed the trip through the various lands and books. Professor, thank you so much for spending the time.
Thank you, Johnny, as always.
13, thank you so much.
Of course, I'll be in Scartaris for a couple of weeks getting a bath.
Yeah, I'm sure. Don't tell Lady Turnsees that, especially if you got Tara going to hand you your hand towels.
No, I'll be all alone. I promise. I just need the room. That's all.
Whatevs. Don't forget to check out the UCPM for all your favorite shows, including Professor.
No Prize Podcast, all about Disney Plus, the MCU, and we managed to squeeze in a few comics.
We do indeed. And the Definitive Crusade, which is all about your DC books, as well as the most recent one, which was a Jeopardy episode. If you don't know what we're talking about, go check it out. It is an absolute hoot. This guy down there, he created all the questions.
Good job, Warlord.
I don't know what I'm complaining for. I can't. I'm not telling you what the ending is, but you know, just go watch the show. Go watch the show. There you go. I've been your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and as always, adios.